I'm on the test server to show you guys the brand new weapon, the Quasher. Pretty funny name, but this thing does do over 500,000 damage per mag, which is over a million with implants and pilots. But essentially this weapon has two firing modes where it's a sniper and then it turns into a guided weapon. So let's jump into some battles so I can show you how it works. So this weapon again has two firing modes. We start out in sniper mode where we're basically like a continuum or a Gauss rifle. We just shoot these little sniper shots. It does have only a 4-second reload. I don't have a reload implant or anything. So here we go, we charge up, we hit these little sniper shots. These don't do very much damage. This is a kill shot, so we're barely able to get it with the full mag of snipers. But now we've charged up the guided plasma balls. So here we go. As you can see, we now lock on to the enemies. I can fire plasma balls down at them. Let's see, I have to get a good angle. There we go. And you're going to see these do a lot more damage than those sniper shots did, right? So with each sniper shot, we have 8 sniper shots in the mag of snipers. Every shot we hit, actually hit and damage an enemy mech, we get a little counter. You'll see my counter went up to 1, now 2, now 3. So with each of those, once my mag of snipers ends, with each of those that I actually hit, I end up getting 1 shot in my mag. So my mag had 7 out of the 8 possible since I missed one of my shots. So you actually get rewarded for hitting your shots initially with the sniper with the huge damage from these guided weapons. And these guided balls, these like plasma balls that we get, are essentially like a Gemini shot, basically. I mean, they have really good tracking like Gemini. They're very similar. They don't apply the effects. Like Gemini does apply weaken and stasis, right? But this weapon doesn't have any of those. And then it does about the same damage as like a Gemini 10. So it's quite powerful. Now, you essentially have to earn your high damage with low damage. You can see right now I'm struggling against Revoker, right? Because this guy has high damage initially, and I have to actually build up my high damage. Of course, he's a close range, so I think I'm just going to leave him alone. But once we build up our high damage by actually hitting those shots, we're rewarded with the guided weapon, which is actually really strong, right? We're doing a lot of damage with all these guided attacks right here. And I can instantly lock on. I have basically the same targeting. You can see it's like the same icon as Savant. I think the one that's on me, it's been on me the entire match. I think that's just a bug. Probably because I'm using the new weapon. There's often some bugs like that. There you go. That was with the Orion mark. I do kind of want to try this on Orion because I haven't tried it yet. I just used Eclipse initially. We're probably going to go down here, but that's essentially how this weapon works. It's very, very unique. I mean, there's nothing really like this in the game quite. It is kind of a combination of older features, right? I would say this is basically... Oh, we got destroyed by a gate crasher. But it's basically a combination of a continuum and then a Gemini. So yeah, I think this thing is very interesting mechanically. It's not terribly unique because, again, it's kind of a combination of, like, yeah, the continuum and Gemini into one weapon. But the charge up, like where we get to charge up with our first shots for higher damage, is kind of new. I mean, it's in, like, especially I would think the particle beam has that, which that's never been a relevant weapon. And this thing, obviously, that damage per magazine stat is definitely, like, interesting to see. Like, this is essentially like a sustained damage sniper. So I would say the most direct competition to this weapon would probably be Continuum, which Continuum has been, like, decent, at least, like, kind of viable even in the meta. Like, having infinite ammo, it really unlocks a lot of options because you can't get system crashed. Obviously, this weapon, as you can see there, is countered very, very heavily by Eclipse, so that's another reason this might not be meta. But we've seen Gemini, which Gemini's probably been the strongest addition to the game so far this year, I would say, unless I'm forgetting something. But it's certainly a powerful weapon. Obviously, in early game, if you're an early game player, I know that Gemini feels like it's one of the most broken things ever because it can one-shot you a lot of the time if you're not careful. But this thing is kind of like a higher damage. Basically, you have lower damage for much longer. Gemini has an even shorter reload. So Gemini has almost no downtime, but it only has two big shots, one burst of damage, right? It doesn't get this thing, which this thing can take out like multiple enemies with one big damage part of its mag. Right there, there's 2, and I still have half a magazine left, right? Of course, again, my damage here is probably a bit higher than it will be in the actual game or on the live server, but it's definitely able to compete in the like high damage category against Gemini. So per shot of the guided weapons on here, this thing does about 3,000 damage less than the Gemini 10. So the Gemini obviously is going to have the weaken and stasis effect. So the weaken means that the second shot does more damage, I believe, which ends up doing like what, 25% more damage per magazine than what's listed. But this thing has 8 shots, which is 4 times as many shots as the Gemini has. So overall, this thing, obviously the big mag of all the guided plasma attacks are going to do more damage, which is, that shouldn't be surprising. You have to charge this thing up for significantly longer. So it's kind of like longer charging phase, and I have to hit these shots onto players, and they aren't very like beneficial. They don't do much damage, right? It's not very appealing to have to do that, but once I charge them up, Then these also have splash damage, by the way, you might have seen there. It's like 4 meters, but we can get a ton of damage out, right? That was a ton of damage. Took out 3 enemies almost entirely by myself. I do want to try this on Orion. We'll do that next game. But yeah, what mechs are going to be good for this weapon? I'm using it on Eclipse because that's the most obvious option for a lot of weapons, since Eclipse is just the best mech in the game. But it's going to need to have something that can have sustained fire, basically, right? You have to get the thing is, okay, the difference between this and Gemini that really stands out to me, like, if I want to use Gemini, or if I want a weapon for my Salver is low HP, it doesn't want to peek at all, right? I'm going to use Gemini because it can fire around corners, which again, these have the same like guided firing mechanics, but the mechanics for the sniper are not the same. You can also do this, which is kind of a little tech where you can get a couple shots in and then fire the rest so that you actually get your guided in. This has the same, it's really good at curving around corners, but I have to stand in open and get those sniper shots out. So you're still going to want to use something that's kind of like a sustained damage mech, which I think really limits this, because that's what Gemini is really nice for, is you basically aren't exposing or risking yourself for the most part when using it. But with this weapon, you kind of have to with the sniper. So Eclipse would be a good option. I don't think Surge would be a good option. One thing about Gemini is that it will basically one-shot people if you're right next to them and they have a perimeter ML or something like that, like a perimeter mod. When they have a perimeter, you actually fire like over the perimeter, which is pretty cool. Kind of little neat trick you can do. But with this weapon, that doesn't work because again, you have to shoot all these snipers to you know, charge that. But it doesn't work on the Aegis Dome. That doesn't give me any of the guided shots or anything, which is unfortunate. I kind of wish it did, but yeah, you're gonna have to use like Aegis, Panther, something that has that sustained damage kind of capability where it can be in the open, fight in the open a little bit. Oh no, I think I'm gonna go down. Yeah, but you have to be able to sustain like and stand in the open to get your sniper shots out, which really limits the amount of mechs that can use this, I feel like. I've put the Quashers on Orion because I do want to try this out. It's probably going to be overkill because, again, this weapon does do really good damage once you get those guided shots out. But overall, yeah, you're going to have to use this on a sustained mech, you know, that has a shield or something to sustain itself. Like, Surge won't really be a great option for this. Probably it would be like Panther. I feel like maybe a heavy mech like Panther would be really good because then we can do, like, increased damage as a... oh, we got him. We can do increased damage with 32 energy, so we're like one-shotting everyone with a bunch of Geminis. Because once you charge up, like, you're doing really good damage, but it's just about getting that actual charge. That's kind of the tricky part. I will say I don't appreciate them kind of having like redundant 82,000 damage. Yeah, that's a lot of damage. I don't appreciate them having like these redundant lock-ons. This is the same as the Savant, so this is almost like a silent buff to the Savant. Because now you don't know if you're getting locked on by Savant or Quasher. I don't know, maybe not a buff, but... it's just a little inconsistent. Like, the idea with different lock-ons is that you know what's locking onto you. Like, especially with Seeker, that's really important. Seeker's looks different, but why do we have, you know, Javelin and Helix and Strike Rocket all look the same, I think, right? But then this and the Savant look different. Like, what's the point? The range on this weapon is also pretty good. I think it's a little more than the Continuum, which again, I want to really see the Continuum versus this weapon. But see, now I'm in trouble. This is the real problem you encounter while using this gun. Now what do? I mean, I need to charge up my attack, but I'm low HP, and this guy's after me. Did I get my... yeah, we got our thing out, but... like, I barely survived that encounter because I don't have my things ready, and now I'm gonna die, yeah. Like, once you get caught out where you're weakened up, maybe your ability's off on cooldown, and you don't have your weapons ready, you're kinda cooked. So, overall, what are my thoughts on this new weapon? Again, it's very new, so everything I say is kind of, you know, take it with a grain of salt. It's just my first impressions, but, again, I think this is very interesting mechanically. It's not terribly unique, which is something I really value. I mean, this is gonna feel like playing with kind of like an alternate version of the Gemini, right? It's very similar, just with, you know, I have to charge up and then I get kind of more of a reward for a time. I don't think it'll be better than Gemini. The damage is like kind of higher, but the reload on Gemini is also shorter, so that kind of is a factor. I do want to see a DPS test between those two weapons. I think that's its direct competitor again. It's very interesting. I don't think Plarium did like bad with this weapon, but it's not necessarily my favorite addition. I don't think this will become meta just because of the way it works. It's too slow to charge up. It's not like terribly slow. I don't mind the, like, you know, high risk, high reward, or like, you know, you have to earn your damage kind of mechanic. But with the particle beam, it clearly doesn't work. Now, that wasn't designed with mods in mind, I don't think, but you know, it still clearly hasn't worked. Particle beam has just never been good at all. And after that addition to the beam category, beams have basically been abandoned by the game. They've just decided that those are just never going to be good or something. I don't know. Plarium, we need more beams. Beams are really cool. We can have unique stuff. But each category of weapons needs to feel like it fits there, and this is basically a combination of sniper and guided. And what is this really? Is it a guided or a sniper? Honestly, it's more of a guided weapon. But I think they just kind of wanted to not make Gemini, like, super obvious that this is just Gemini 2.0, which it is. This is just Gemini Part 2, and I don't think it'll be better, at least not for endgame. Like, these little sniper shots aren't going to be, like, taking away ML mods or something like that to, you know, really make it meta or anything like that, I don't think. So it's going to be fine, though. The damage on it is really high. It's not bad at all, right? Again, the damage it's doing is higher than Gemini when it gets into that guided attack form. So yeah, the dual firing mechanic is cool. Earning your higher damage shots is very cool as well. It has pretty good stats on paper, right? High damage, short reload, good range. But I think overall the charge time is too long for it to be like meta, which is fine. It doesn't have to be meta. It's something fairly unique. I wish they would have put a little more of a twist to it. But yeah, I don't have too much of a problem with this weapon. Hopefully it's not too annoying. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe if you want to see more videos on the test server covering new items. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.